Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Wowhead Weekly Podcast. My name is Panzer, host of YouTube channel Trade Chat, and today Perculia, Wowhead site manager, and I are here to talk about all of the happenings of the past week in the world of Warcraft. But without further ado, I'm going to let my lovely co-host introduce herself.
Hey everyone, we have a very exciting week. We have a lot of 6.2 PTR news, but also some interesting news about some stuff going on live servers as well. So we have a really meaty show.
It's true. Meat and maybe a little bit of potatoes as well. Kicking off the video with a little bit of let's get the bad news out of the way first. We're gonna rip that band-aid off. Currently, World of Warcraft is down to 7.1 million subscribers. I mean, I guess it's technically not currently because it's last quarter, but this is roughly a 2.9 million subscriber loss from the mid-November numbers when Warlords of Draenor launched. So what do you think about that, Perk?
So on one hand, it's not out of the blue because the numbers are roughly where they were before Warlords launched, but it does feel a little disappointing that they got so many people back for launch and it dropped off so quickly. It's a lot more sudden than the Mists of Pandaria drop off after that launched in the the whole expansion hype died down.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on it. Should we read what the call said just to get the official source?
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah. The transcript is Blizzard Entertainment had the largest Q1 online player community in its history, up a double-digit percentage year over year despite no major launches in the quarter. As expected and consistent with our experience following prior expansions, we saw a decline in the World of Warcraft subscriber number. Subscribers ended the quarter at 7.1 million. World of Warcraft's revenue performance at constant FX has been more stable, driven by continued strong uptake on value-added services and price increases in select regions, which partially offset subscriber declines, particularly in the East. World of Warcraft remains the #1 subscription-based MMORPG in the world. And that was taken from the Activision Blizzard earnings call, which was earlier this week.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's not completely unexpected with that's kind of what happens. People get all hyped for an expansion and the expansion comes out and it kind of like more casual players kind of dwindle out. There's a lot of speculation as to why maybe people left quicker in this expansion than Mists of Pandaria. My personal thought is because in Mists of Pandaria there was a lot of like daily quests and there was a lot of like exploration and like run around and see new things, whereas this has been a little more like garrisons and raids. So I think it suits a different community of people, but that's just my personal opinion. I don't think that's necessarily negative.
Yeah, I mean, I think also just the player base is getting older, so some people that had the time to do the daily quests in Mist, or people that enjoy doing some things in Mist maybe necessarily didn't want to stick around for that in Warlords, or if you raided in Mist and you're too busy, you're like, oh, I already got my kills that felt good under my belt. And, now I'm older and I have a kid, or my job's longer, or my parents are sick, so I'll move on to something else.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely, you have to think World of Warcraft's been out for 10 years, almost 11 years now. So, I mean, the people who started playing that when they were, say, 25 are 35 now, and you're in a lot different of a life place. I think it was really smart what World of Warcraft and Blizzard did, making people able to boost a character so they could get right into current content. I think that was a really nice feature for new players or like really old school returning players. But like I said, I would be willing to bet a good hunk of the people that subscribed for the expansion then didn't end up sticking around were, like you said, like an aging player base. But I actually have really enjoyed Warlords of Draenor. I mean, I tend to have a positive outlook on things, so a lot of people say my opinion is like invalid, but I don't know, I like it. I think it's fun. I'm really excited for the raid coming in 6.2.
Yeah, I think the 6.2 preview has been great. I think that maybe they would have had more retained subscribers if 6.1 had some more meaty content in it. Like, I personally do not have a problem with the selfie camera, but I can see how that sort of being the shining major new thing in that patch when the rest of it was a lot of, improvements and polish, sort of gave it a bad rep. And meanwhile, in Mists of Pandaria, the first patch, 5.1, had Brawlers Guild, and the whole, like, Crasserang Wilds quest line, and a bunch of other new things. So it just,
there was a new raid in the first content patch of Mists of Pandaria too, right? Or were there multiple raids at launch? I can't remember.
They staggered them. So there was Terrace of Endless Spring around, I think, 5.1. But, like, if you didn't raid, you felt like you had new stuff to do in 5.1. And 6.1 had some, like, useful garrison updates, but I feel like that should have been stuff that ideally would have come at launch. And there just, wasn't the new quest hub or the new, like, stuff for people that don't raid solo content to sort of sink their teeth into. And that's why like Twitter and selfies got a bad rep.
Yeah, and I think that's a hard comparison anyways, because it's certainly not the same people who developed the selfie cam who would really have anything to do with questing. I guess I could be wrong. I don't know that side of it, but I mean, I would guess that it's not like they got one thing instead of the other. But like you said, it was a lot of polish. It was a lot of updates to current content. But as someone who like vehemently hates dailies, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. But we do have a lot of stuff coming in 6.2, so hopefully that will draw some people back in, keep some people that are playing happy. One of the first things that a lot of people are excited about are the new Gronling mounts. There's going to be 3 new Gronling mounts for PvP Gladiator, and there's also a new Gronling mount from Garrison Missions, and I took a little video of him so you guys can see him. And his name is Coalfist, and Coalfist is kind of a big deal because all of the other groundling mounts are really hard to get. There's the one from Poundfist, there's the one from the Raider, Glory of the Draenor Raider, is that what it is?
Yeah, the tier 17 achievements.
Yeah.
So, you have to get your friends. You can't just get it on your own.
Yeah, and then the other 3 are all for, like, being good at PvP, which I certainly am not. So a lot of people are really excited that they'll be able to get Coalfist, and it sounds like he's kind of going to be like an everyone mount, right? Because he's actually from a raid mission.
Yeah,
he's the selfie cam of 6.2.
Yeah, he is the one, like, your followers obviously have to be good, and it's not like, oh, level 90, one follower mission, 100%.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that would be, he's, like, the easy version, and his coloration is pretty cool, I think. Like, yeah. I think that the Primal, one of the Gladiator ones that's, like, very fel, how it's purple and green, I think that one is the coolest, but the rest aren't anything to sneeze at, and it's still a pretty unique looking mount. Yeah, we were talking about it earlier, Perk and I, and we think that Gruul should be dropping a little, like, Gruul Gronling mount. He can be called the Dragon Slayer Gronling. Yeah, he's like the original Gronling. He is, and that'd be so cool. Like, I don't know, like some crazy achievement on Mythic, or like a really low drop percentage. That'd be neat. Otherwise, though, I'm not super into Gronling mounts. Yeah, I just sort of want one to have one. It's like, add that to my collection. If I'm in the mood that I have like a Primal Transmog, I can have the mount that matches, but I'm not going to sound like a good at PvP to try to get them all. I just feel like it's your piggyback riding on a Gronling. I feel like they're very dangerous and they want to like throw you off. They do. They're like crazy bucking Broncos. But one of the mounts that I am really looking forward to in 6.2 is the Infernal Direwolf. And we don't exactly know how much he's going to cost because his placeholder values are very, very high. Right now he costs like 100,000 gold and 150,000 Apexis crystals. But it's a placeholder. But how cool is he? I love the new wolf mounts. It's really cool because I love the wolf model, but then you also have all the fel infusion around it. Yeah. And I'm really excited. And I just want to stress that, like, there are expensive mounts in WoW, and I know people are saying, oh, they're lying about a placeholder value. That's not really the case, but there are, like, I mean, seeing all this PTR data for, like, year after year, there's a lot of placeholder values that change. So, like, I wouldn't stress out that this is 100k gold and it will stay that way forever. Like, it's probably going to be expensive because the current Apexis mount is, like, 50,000 gold, but it's like maybe they just, just let it go live before you buy it. Yeah, like they like the item to the same vendor sells an item that increases your gear to eye level 695 for 25 gold, and like I'm pretty sure that's not not going that wouldn't make too much sense. Yeah. There's also 3 new mounts coming from Tanan Jungle Elites, and. Did I just click on the same? No, okay, they're slightly different. If you look with the Infernal Direwolf is a little lighter in color. This one's a little bit darker. So there's the Warsong Direfang. He drops from Terrorfist. I think all of them can drop from, like, they have a shared drop rate, which is also cool. Oh, that is cool. Yeah. That is really cool. Are they going to be like in Frostfire Ridge, there's the rare that drops
the wolf mount. Are you going to be able to sell them, do you think?
I'm not sure at this point. Just that the mount journal text lists all 4 rare elites for those 3 mounts.
Yeah. This guy's really interesting. This is the Armored Razorback, and if you look, he's got very orcish... Oh, he just switched on the screen, but he has very orcish armor. And then there's the Tundra Ice Hoof. And I'm going to show you another mount in a little while that's like the Armored Razorback, except he's like troll armored, and I think that's really neat that they did that. But these 3 mounts are pretty cool, and I think it's awesome, like you said, if they do share a drop rate like that. And that's just for killing the Tanan Jungle elites. There's 3 of them, right?
Yeah, there's like, the PTR is subject to change, but there's a few of them, and they're listed for this achievement, which is called Hellbane, and they're a bit tougher than your, average Eurospawn, which drops a blue. They drop oil, apparently, in the PTR. They've got a hefty amount of health. I think it's cool that not everyone will be, like, farming Huolan, and then Huolan instantly dies. You'll have to be split up in different areas.
Yeah. Oh, do they share a spawn as well, so they spawn all over the place?
I think it's too early to say.
Gotcha.
Personally, I haven't found them yet, but I've seen a few Wowhead users being like, oh, I got 100 oil from this guy, and like, oh, lucky me, I got the mounts. So now, hopefully we'll see more soon.
Are they going to be like almost like mini world bosses where you need several people to kill them, or is it something that you'll be able to solo?
I don't think you'll be able to solo, because there's a separate achievement for like the baby rare elites. And these guys are like the lieutenants of Hellfire Citadel. So they sound kind of scary.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I like how many mounts are being added and the variation in which they are being added. There's also these mounts. These are actually, you can purchase them for gold in your garrison. This is the boar that I was talking about that's like troll armored. He's the Rocktide battle boar. And right now he's selling for 10,000 gold. And then the next one you're going to see is the Witherhide Cliff Stomper, who sells for 20k. But I really, really, really like this board with all the troll armor. Mon.
Yeah. I know some people are saying that the mount colors seem a bit similar, but I like the armor details on some of these newer boars and, cleft hooves that we didn't see from, for example, like the stable versions of those mounts.
I just, when I was making these videos for this, I noticed the difference between the Armored Razorback and the Rocktide Battle Boar in their armor, and I thought it was super, super cool. Like, I have trolls and orcs, and I have all different, so I really like, I'm not a big fan of trolls, but I do love goblins. My hunter's a goblin, and I think they can definitely swing the troll look, so I definitely am going to get that Rocktide Battle Boar for my goblin hunter. She's going to look badass. There's also the Crusher Pet that we talked about last week. He's a little ore gorger guy.
He has a mining pick because the drawing.
That's so cute. And he actually just sells for gold.
Yeah, so, he's pretty easy to get. And if you missed it last week, basically Crusher is a tribute to a child that pretended to be a Blizzard developer for Career Day. And he had this battle pet idea, and it was this cute little sort of ore gorger pet that was holding a mining pick, and it was like good at all the professions. So Blizzard CS saw it, and they put this pet in the game.
I love that it's something everyone's going to be able to get to, that it's not some crazy achievement to get, because that's so cute. That's good guy Blizzard. That's really, really cute. And then there were a couple other things. I'm going to flip it over to Perk to talk a little bit about those, because she's on the PTR and I am not.
You're leaving me to talk about the unpronounceable pet.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so there is this pet that is called the Shard of Surak, and sorry if I mutilated that name.
No, I think you did good.
You might, the name still might sound familiar because that's a major lore figure from the Cipher of Damnation questline in Outland, Shadowmoon Valley. So that was like, a major figure at the end of that questline, and now the battle pet is reminiscent of that. And it's accessible in an area that opens up later in the new version of the Garrison campaign. So if you do questing for a few weeks, you'll be sent to this special area. And then it's like a little object that's tucked away in this crystal. So that's pretty cool. There is a vial of ooze, which is a toy that turns you into sort of those Primordius globules. The description makes it seem like it should be red, but I know other people have been saying it looks like it's black. But either way, that's still pretty cool. You can be an ooze. There are battle pets that are like oozes. You can match up with your pet. That's pretty cool. And there's also a new Burning Blade disguise toy from Garrison Missions, which we just talked about how there was that cool mount from Garrison Missions, and it seems like Blizzard is expanding the scope of follower missions to have more, cute things and not just, oh, I have to do these missions to get my gold and my resources and my mandatory, kind of boring stuff. So I'm in favor of that. I would love to look like Azuka Blade Fury because I think that she, even though she's evil, I think that's a good character.
I play the Horde, so I can get behind things even though they might be a little evil. I like all the stuff that's coming in 6.2, and I was really interested when I read this that even though we've got like the new naval fleet missions and the shipyard, that your regular follower missions will still be relevant. And there's going to be a lot of catch-up mechanics, which is really nice for people. Like, I really mained my shaman in the beginning of the expansion and kind of didn't level alts until recently. So there's a catch-up mechanic that will allow you to buy 645 follower armor for 500 gold, or that could be a placeholder. It might just be 500 gold right now. Right. And there's also a lot of missions that will reward oil for your shipyard, so you'll kind of need to do them both, or else you will fall behind. Right. And then what else did you find?
So there's also a trait that increases oil from missions, which is cool. And right now on the PTR, all of my buildings are invisible, but I assume you can recruit that from your follower from the PTR, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And we found a few really cool items from missions that I was surprised by, but I think it's awesome. You've got the Medallion of the Legion that increases your Draenor reputations by 1,000, which is like that hose and peace pipe if you kill that respawn in Mr. Pandaria, which is cool because like reputations right now are really grindy. Like there's not daily quests, you just sort of like kill things for a while.
Yeah, the laughing star is terrible.
Sorry about my earbud. For some reason, my ear is like rejecting it. The Frozen Arms of a Hero is from the Blizzard Convention mission, and it increases your follower eye level by 50, and it looks like it can be sold right now. And I think that's really cool because for one of my Wowhead April Fool's jokes, I was talking about, like the Blizzard Convention being an in-game event. So I like to think that inspired that. Maybe it's not, but it's still really funny because
crediting you for it.
The name is Blizzard Convention, but the description is like, oh, we sent your followers into this snowstorm and this guy is frozen now, help, but it has that sort of dual meaning. And a really, really cool popular item is the Elixir of the Rapid Mind. It's a 300% experience gain elixir, and it works up until level 99. So I know there's some other consumables that, like there's like the Mist elixir, and it didn't work there. So this, I guess, is the Warlord's version of that. Yeah. And all of these are for missions, so it's not like kill the rare spawn or buy this resource.
It's like RNG.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Is there a minimum level in that? Do you have to be 90 in order to use it?
I'm not sure. I think on the Wowhead page, like they have their quick facts, or like in the tooltip it would show that data, but off the top of my head I haven't gotten it yet, so I'm not sure. And there's a few other, sort of interesting things, and you can find all the information about the missions on ptr.wowhead.com/missions. You can see if any live missions change. You can like sort by rewards. You can see like the threats that you'll have to counter if you want the cool mount or the toy. So all that stuff is there.
Yeah, definitely useful. The whole PTR database on Wowhead is very useful if you want to know what the heck is coming up in the next patch. I personally use it a lot. I like how on Wowhead, when you're looking for like a specific mount or something, like if you search Blorp, he's not a mount, he's a pet. But if you search Blorp, it won't even bring you up search results. It'll just bring you to Blorp's page. I like that.
Yeah.
I appreciate one less click.
we try to sort of predict what users want to see, and so
every time I type in anything, just send me to Blorp, please. And of course, there's a bunch of stuff coming up that's not just Garrison and fun stuff. There's also, of course, Hellfire Citadel, the new raid that's going to be right smack dab in the middle of Tanan. And an interesting thing that we found out this week is there's actually like varying loot in Hellfire Citadel depending on how far into the raid you are. So Hellfire Assault, Iron Reaver, Cormrock, and Hellfire High Council will drop 690 normals, 705 heroics, and 720 mythics. But then when you move on to the next wing, it'll be Kilrog, Deadeye, Gorefiend, Iskar, and oh gosh, Sorithar. How bad was that? Was that bad? Drops 695 normal, 710 heroic, and 725 mythic. And then when you get to the final wing before the last boss, it'll be Fel Lord. Oh gosh, I should have let you do this.
Zakoon. Fel Lord Zakoon. Oh god.
And then
Zul Horak.
Tyrant Velhari and Manaroth. They will drop 700 normal, 715 heroic, and 730 mythic. Then Archimond. Is it Archimond? I feel like I want to say Archimond, but then people tell me I'm wrong. Is it Archimond? What do you think? What do you say?
I think it's Archimond.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I won't say Archimond anymore. Archimond. Archimond will drop 705 normal, 720 heroic, and 735 mythic. Now, when I was reading this, I thought, wow, that's really cool. Like, the harder bosses will drop better loot. But then Perk brought up an excellent point that immediately made me swallow my words, and that was some of the best in slot pieces will not be as high eye level if they're off of earlier bosses than if they're off of late bosses. So, thoughts?
Yeah, I know. So a lot of people on Twitter that, test out stuff on the PTR, try to, do stats and theory crafting, were saying things like, for example, there's a bow and it's from a boss in the middle of the tier, and there's no bow from the final boss, so my best in slot weapon's going to be, 10 items levels lower than someone else's best in slot weapon. Yeah, I mean, maybe it doesn't matter DPS wise because it's well, whatever, a mage can't use a bow, who cares if the mage staff is higher item level, but I also wonder about the sort of psychological impact of that, my item level cannot be as high as yours, or, it just, I'm not excited to get a drop from the final boss because there's nothing for me there. We talked about the models last week, and the Archimon ones, the models for those weapons are really, dripped in lore, and they talk about old weapons, and they feel more special, versus Hellfire High Council's staff number 2 that shares a model with some other things. So, I mean, they are changing the item levels around pretty frequently. Yeah. So
what they should do is make Archimond only drop weapons. Everybody's weapons drop off Archimond. That would be a good kind of solution, but not really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. I mean, I think they're also trying to move away from the idea that you're meant to play a game with items, and it's meant to be, if you progress further, the loot you're getting from the later bosses should feel more relevant, and that's why it's a better item level as opposed to well, boss 1 randomly drops my trinket that's good, so let's keep killing boss 1 over and over. Just to get the one with the perfect proc. So I guess they're trying to say, hey, if, this item level is higher, you should want this type of item because the stats are better, don't overthink it. So I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I get it, especially since my guild right now, we downed Heroic Blackhand, but now we're going back and doing it again, and he's not at the point where he's on farm. So it's slamming your face up against a wall for loot that really is... Do we really need it?
Right.
There's nothing fantastic. I'm a firm believer that all of those super, super end game hard bosses, just drop them out. Just please drop them out. Make it always feel worth it for everybody. That's just how I feel. Archimon does drop them out, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, on Mythic right now, he has the sort of Fel Annihilator mount, but there's nothing like Garrosh where you get an achievement and a mount for doing it at a lower item level. Yeah. And I haven't seen anything like the heirlooms yet, which was sort of a nice bonus for killing the boss and then helping your alts or looking forward to it.
I really, really liked that mechanic a lot. That was very fun. I hope that whatever the last boss in this raid is will have something like that, even if it's not necessarily a weapon, even if it's a helmet or a trinket or some other piece of gear. That I would be fine with that. I thought that was really neat, and it also made killing that final boss feel relevant in the future. I have alts that are using my mythic Garrosh mace. Right. You know what I mean? And it's every time I send the same one around because it's all gemmed and enchanted. I'm not paying for those things again. But I think that was a really, really neat mechanic. I hope that they further on with that in the future. And then there's also gear, of course, that drops not from raids because not everybody raids. There's the BOA Baleful tokens, which you can actually get those from garrison quests and garrison missions and naval missions. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Garrison campaign quests were a pretty recent addition. I was doing them on the PTR, and they rewarded me, baleful boots, and I was like, oh, okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. And those are bind on accounts, so you can send them to your alts.
Yeah, they're really cool.
That's really nice. And then the new Apexis vendor will sell them and upgrade them up to level 695. Then last week we talked about some of the weapons and treasures that dropped into Nan, and the treasure versions were green and they were 640, and now they're 650, which makes them better than Highmaul LFR, even though they're green. They're green, right?
They got moved up to be rare, but I mean, like, eye levels are item level, so it's still like, you know, they're just 10 item levels higher. Yeah. So that's still pretty nice. I guess they really want you to focus more on the current rate and not feel like you have to grind yourself through Highmaul.
Go back and do Highmaul again. Nobody wants to do that. They're really cool for transmog too. There were quite a few really cool like treasure weapons as well. And then, fun new stuff on Wowhead. Yeah. We're really excited about this. I made a video of this so you guys could see it. But what's really cool is that right now, Wowhead subscribers can actually customize their front page sidebar. So as you see on the screen, you can like move that sidebar up and down. I'm going to let Perk talk a little bit about what subscribing to Wowhead means.
So subscribing to Wowhead, it's sort of similar to subscribing to Twitch. You get special benefits for supporting the site. Subscribing to Wowhead is $29.99 a year, so that averages out to less than $3 a month. We also have month-to-month pricing plans. And you get all sorts of other things like no advertisements on the site, your text color, if you're like leaving a forum post or a comment, has a special color. You can get like little, portraits to put by your name, and they have special borders as well. We have a special tool where if you you can like input everything that's in your bags onto Wowhead, and it shows how much of that item you have as you're browsing the site. So if you're like on like the Sumptuous Fur page, it will be like, hey, you've got like 80 in your bank and like 10 in your bags, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And so we added this really cool thing where you can just also, for like no extra charge, you can move stuff on the sidebar. So if you really like Today and Trainer, that can be at the top. If you really want Blue Post at the top, that can be at the top. You can move everything. It's not just moving one thing up to the top. And if you to subscribe to Wowhead, you can just hit the subscribe or upgrade available option in the top right of any page. So if you're logged into Wowhead, you'll see like your name and then your number for reputation, and then you'll see upgrade available. And yeah, it's really easy. Yeah. It is super cool.
I am a big fan. I was so excited when you told me about that this week. I have Today and Draenor on the top of mine, followed by Blue Tweets. I know you guys care. And then there's also some new stuff on Wowhead outside of Wowhead Premium, where you can put in a piece of gear that you have, and then a piece of gear that you want or that you just got, and it'll actually tell you whether or not it's an upgrade. And that's not a subscriber-only feature, correct? That's something everybody can use?
Yeah, that is for everyone. It's basically, there's all this like 6.2 loot coming in, and we do a lot making our item pages look really cool, but we wanted to sort of, like take some general polish and add a feature on top of that to help you answer some questions about items instead of just, browsing them. Mm-hmm. So basically, like you just select your class and your average item level and an old and a new item. And, we have all these stat weights generated in the background with SimCraft, and we know a lot of people are like scared with math, so we don't put all those numbers in your face, but it just sort of tells you like which item is better. Like there's literally like, yes, this is better. No, it's not better.
It tells you why though too. So if you put in a piece that has like say crit and versatility, and then the other one has mastery and haste, it'll say this is better because your stat priority is
exactly. Yeah.
And it really simplifies it, and I think not only is that, it's kind of like the give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day kind of thing. Like you're kind of subtly teaching someone how to play their class just a tiny bit better. So that's really, really cool. And then you said there also that also supports trinkets with procs on it as well.
Yeah, that was an improvement over our old basic item filters where procs weren't supported. So we're really happy that we can get, more accurate results for trinket procs. And if people have any more suggestions, like trying to get tanks or healers into account or like set bonuses, we can try to do that as well. But like, we're just really happy that we have a feature that can take like Warforged and gems into account, and like, DPS procs like that. That's really important for people. So we're happy that we, upgraded all of our item tech behind the scenes, and we can present a really sort of like user-friendly tool and not be very scary with it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Right? And that's over at wowhead.com/items.
Yeah,
Is that where the old one was? Does it redirect you?
So like if you load up an item page on /items, there's like a quick compare link on every item page that opens the tool for you with that item already there. Which is probably how most people will find it, but you can also go to tools, item recommendations, or wowhead.com/upgrades. So, basically we had it so if you find any item, if you're browsing items, you'll eventually find your way to this
You'll
tool.
make it there. And then we talked a lot about the Darkmoon Faire. Last week I talked a lot about the Darkmoon Faire in Downtime Tuesday, and we have exciting things going on in the Darkmoon Faire that's currently in World of Warcraft, as well as what is coming up in 6.2. Now, of course, the Darkmoon Faire ends on Sunday. Today is Friday. If you're watching the VOD of this, it's Saturday. And I'm going to flip it over to Perk, and she's going to tell you what you need to get before the weekend is over.
Awesome. So there are 2 new racing achievements series. There is the Big Wanderluster Gold for using a Wanderluster mount, and that rewards a Darkmoon Gazer, which is like an Eye of Kilrog, and it lets you scout out dangerous areas. This is not a toy, so it will live in your bag, but it's pretty cool. And then for the smaller race, using the Wanderluster, you get an attraction sign, which is a toy that places down a yellow blinking arrow, and it looks really similar to the arrows you see all around the fair. And what is the Wanderluster mount? That is this sort of engineering helicopter, and basically you can port to any obstacle and get immunity, so those chains, like, you want to jump to those now. Like, those are useful for you.
Yeah.
And you can also pull the power boost towards you, so like a sprint boost or a spring. And you can also fly in the air, so those coil ones are really good because you can, go pretty far with them, like the rocket mount. You can like slow fall off.
Yeah. I need to get the arrow because I get lost all the time. It's like a running joke in my guild that like I have no way of using maps. I just constantly go the wrong way. So I need everybody in my guild to get those arrows to direct me where I'm supposed to go, because I'm just like terrible at using my mini map. But that's what's going on in the current Darkmoon Faire, and things will be changing in the 6.2 Darkmoon Faire for the better, because first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about Blorp. During the Darkmoon Faire in 6.2 and going forward, you will be able to catch the new Darkmoon Faire fish called Darkmoon Dagger Maw, which you can then redeem for all sorts of different things, one of which is Blorp. He will sell for 50 Darkmoon Dagger Maw, and he actually is not a battle pet. He is a companion, and his flavor text reads, "This fish doesn't seem to respond to your commands at all, or notice that you're there, really." And as you can see on your screen right now, Blorp is pretty much the best fish of all time.
Yep. He is pretty awesome. He was the first thing I got on the PTR.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I loved when I was taking this model viewer video, he kept getting all dizzy and like swimming off of the model viewer. He's so great. I can't wait to get him, although I am a tiny, like slight little bit disappointed he can't battle, because all of his battle moves would have been hysterical. It would have been like Blorp turns around and barks.
He could be like the Alec plushie where it just sort of sits there.
Oh, like a new awfully big adventure.
Yep.
The awfully Blorp adventure.
Yep. It doesn't do anything. He just is there and.
Oh, make it happen, please.
Yes. We need that.
Please. There is a battle pet coming in 6.2. Well, there's more than one, obviously, but from Darkmoon Faire, you can get the translucent shell for 100 Darkmoon Dagger Maw, and he will spawn a little spectral ghost crawler crab guy, which is pretty cool. And then Perk checked it out last week, and I thought this was really, really neat, was the Darkmoon Fancy Feast.
Yeah, it was super cool. It looks like just a general, like, Warlord's Feast, but when you eat it, you get this really cool Gilneas disguise, either a tuxedo with a top hat or a gown with this really cute hat that's got like lace and a flower and ribbons. And you can't get that hat, at least, with like any transmog or anything. So,
which is unfortunate.
Yeah, so that's, the materials are really easy, so I guess you just stock up on these feasts and drop them whenever you want to dress up, and I was really excited about this.
They're fun. That stuff like that is really, really fun. Then there's also, I remember back when I started playing WoW, there was the fire water. I can't remember what it was called, but it would make you grow. And there's like
the Winterfall.
Yeah, the Winterfall fire water. And there's a new version of that called Darkmoon Fire Water, which will let you gather things faster, like herbs or mines. And it also increases your size for an hour. Does that stack the way the old one did? Do you know?
No, I didn't test it. I didn't test that one out. There were some elixirs, and I was able to stack a few of them, but there was a cap.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's understandable. And then there's also a couple new cooking recipes. I think they're all low level. And then there's a new toy, the Seafarer's Slide Whistle, which makes a noise, which I probably should have grabbed a noise file for, but I didn't do that because I don't think things out thoroughly. But it makes the noise, and it costs 25.
Yeah,
Dark
it's
Moon
linked on the
Diamond.
Wowhead page, I believe. Like if you go to the like sounds or like see also tab, you can listen to like the whoop and like the up sound and the down sound, and
Ooh.
exactly.
Ooh. There you go,
Exactly.
guys. That's spot on. There's also the day-old Dark Moon Donut, which will increase your fishing by 200, which is nice because right now the 200 fishing food you have to fish that up, right? It's
Yeah, the
only
worm
way to get
supreme.
it. Yeah. And then there's also hogs, which I have. Oh wait, first there's the Faded Treasure map, which apparently now there's treasure on the dark. Was there always treasure on the Dark Moon Isle, or is this a new addition?
Yeah, well, if there was treasure, they weren't. They were hiding it from
They
us.
were hiding it really well because now there's going to be treasure on the Dark Moon Isle because you'll be able to get a treasure map. So that would be kind of dumb if there wasn't any treasure. So I'm excited to see what treasure there is. But outside of the treasure, you will now be able to obtain the Hoggar Pet, which we've been seeing around since before the 10-year anniversary. And you'll
Yeah.
get him through the Whack-A-Knoll game. It's a new achievement called That's Whack. See what they
Yep.
did there? And you have to get a score of 45, and you'll get like this little replica Hoggar who will follow you around. And he is a battle pet.
Yeah, so he is all about terrorizing her other battle pets.
As he should be. There'll also be a new PvP heirloom that you can get from the Dark Moon Deathmatch event, and that's a ring. Is that a ring?
No, it's a trinket.
trinket.
So the new rings are coming from the naval missions.
Yeah. That's
And this is a PvP centered one, so you get increased experience in battlegrounds. But it's different than like the heirloom Eye of the Beast or
Yeah, that's neat though that they're doing that, and it's for the arena, the Dark Moon Deathmatch arena, which is cool that they're making it like you have to PvP to earn the special PvP heirloom. I like that. I think that's cool. And then like Perculia said earlier, there's also the new Dark Moon elixirs, which will increase your size or reduce your size, and they only cost one ticket each, and they do stack a couple times, but there is a cap.
Yeah, like I found that if you get one that has a stat that counts for a battle and a guardian elixir,
Mm-hmm.
you only grow once.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take something that's considered an offensive stat and then drink one that's considered a defensive stat, you have the two different buffs and you can be like twice as big or twice as small.
That's
so
adorable.
I am happy about that.
I think stuff like that is really fun, especially if you like put on a costume, like the what's the one that makes you into like a cougar guy who stands on his back feet? You get it in Spires of Iraq, the cat.
Oh yeah, the Saberon
Yeah,
one.
so you could become like a giant Sabron or a teeny tiny Sabron, and then you could be the same size as your Hoggar and run around and terrorize your other battle pets.
Yeah.
And then one of the biggest things coming in 6.2 that people are, I don't want to say excited, but like enthusiastic is probably a good word.
Yeah.
People are enthusiastic about the epic gems. Are epic gems, and you will have to complete a quest line in Tanan, and it'll cost you 1,000 Apexis crystals to do so. Now I'm going to let you explain this a little bit better because I don't have a jewel crafter, so I don't know much about this, and I also don't want to misspeak and have people get angrier than they already are.
Okay. Aw. So basically, in northwestern Tanan, there's this sort of Arakoa hub, and they task you to go out and find this broken Apexis construct and bring it back to the hub. So you go out, you find the guy, you feed it Apexis crystals, it gets very excited, it runs back to the hub, and then once this guy is friendly and in your hub, you can bring the materials to the Guardian, and he will craft versatility taladites for you. So this means that you can't you now know the recipe, but you can't craft it anywhere in the world. You have to go to this guy and then, click, hey, create this for me. So it's sort of similar to like Shadow Cloth in like Shadow Moon Valley, or having a like if you're really old school, making flasks and Scholomance, you have to be in the right area in order to craft the gem. And then there are other epic gems that are not just versatility. So you can unlock other gems by finding their like counterparts in the world, and you find the module in the world and you bring it back to this Apexis Guardian. So for Critical Strike, it's dropped by Shadow Lord Iskar in Hellfire Citadel, and we don't know if it's on all difficulties or one right now. The Haste one is dropped from a boss in Skyreach, but it's only Mythic difficulty. The Mastery one is sold by the Brawlers Guild vendors for 800 gold, and it requires rank 6. The Multi-Strike one is sold by the Apexis trader Arakoa in your capital city for 3,000 gold and Apexis crystals. And the Stamina one is a drop from the world boss Rukmar. So they're pretty varied. I know there's been some, I don't want to say controversy, but I guess discussion that, like, oh, I don't really want to run hardcore things and I have to like do this mythic dungeon. Is this too much for me? Am I going to bother with it? But I think I'm okay with it, especially if it's a high drop rate.
I actually have weird feelings about this because I really like that they're making it. Like, I feel like a lot of people had complaints in the beginning of this expansion because everybody could do everything and, like, professions were ruined and,
Right.
And now they're making it so that everybody can't do everything and you have to go do all these special things to get this. And I really like that. I just wish it applied to all professions. Like, I wish every profession had this. Like, this is old school WoW right here. This is, this is very, I mean, this is a key or an attunement only for jewel crafting. I would really like it if every profession had these barriers because it would really reward the people who put the time in and put the effort in to do it. And I think the main thing that people have an issue with, or at least that from my perception, is that it's only jewel crafters.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think that's fair. If you have an alt that's an alchemist, they can still do pretty well.
Yeah.
Just if they have a garrison. But if you have an alt that's a jewel crafter, you're not going to level them to 100 and then take them through a dungeon and whatnot to get this recipe.
Yeah, it might not be something you're interested in doing. Like I said, I would just like it to be on everything. Like, I don't really think it's a bad thing at all. I like it. I personally like it.
Yeah.
But I just wish it was all professions. Now, but the gems are super expensive to actually craft. It's going to cost 15 Feldblight, which is like the new Savage Blood, 100 Talidite crystals, and a blue gem.
Yeah. So, and this is just for like a 25 stat increase.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how your casual player, your everyday player is not going to be running around in like epic gemmed gear. Like, this is going to be gear that you're not replacing for a long time. I mean, You're not, unless you're like, wow, Rich. Alvine might be doing this.
Yeah.
But I certainly will not be completely decked out. I don't know if the legendary ring ever got a gem slot. You would obviously put an epic gem in a legendary or in like your best mythic piece, or oh my gosh, have everybody get a mythic warforge. That's just too much to handle.
I know,
but
in the lottery.
I like that they're making it really special. They're really special to make, and they're really special to get. So I really like this, and it does make you go out in the world. It's a lot different than the initial 6.1, where you just hang out in your garrison and craft stuff and... Yeah, and it's like you said, in like really old school WoW, like you'd have to go to Strathome to, alchemize certain things. So I like that they're kind of like throwing it back to like that kind of stuff, because people are always saying how much, change is always bad, things were always better in the past. So it's nice that they're doing these nods to like how the good old days used to be. But I mean, it's not just jewel crafting that's going to be getting people out of their garrisons. It's weird because shipyards are going to really like force you to go out and about with like gathering oil and doing the Tanan jungle quests. And we got a lot more information this week about how shipyards actually work. And you messed around with one on the PTR, correct?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing research for it because I need to start doing all that stuff so our database for shipyards is really good and not all messy and confusing. So I have all sorts of research about ships, and I can talk a little bit about how their abilities work.
Yeah,
because I think there's some confusion with how like followers, like, are they the same as ships? Are they not the same as ships?
Well, I will let you take it away.
Awesome. So ships have 4 ability slots. And the types of abilities are roughly like follower abilities and traits, but they're split up all differently. So a ship ability can counter a specific naval threat. And there's also a lot of bonuses like an increase to gold or like success chance or, like salvage even, which actually makes more sense from a naval mission than a follower mission. So that's kind of cool. So one ability is called a type, and that's determined by which type of ship you choose to build. So there are 5 types of ships, and like every destroyer will, counter the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Then you've got the crew slot, and that's determined by the race of the ship you randomly get when you construct one. So when you construct a ship, you're like, hey, I want to build one of these 5 types of ships. And then within that, it's like, hey, you got the, Turan ship, or you got the Draenei ship. So you can't really specify the type of the crew that you want, but there's like a very limited pool of different crews that can be on a ship.
Yeah.
And then there's no like level 90 to 100 leveling for ships, but there are uncommon, rare, and epic. And when your ship is
RNG, though?
No. I mean, I've built maybe like 10 ships and they're all uncommon. So
so they level up.
Yeah, and it's easier to level up. And then when you hit rare and epic, you get these equipment slots, and equipment covers like the things that can counter abilities as well as traits, which is cool because you can customize it fully. So if you'd rather, have a ship that has all the, like super extra gold for missions, you can just pile on those traits. Or if you're like, hey, I really want to get this mission done, but I have no ships that can counter these threats, you can load up your ship with all of these threats. So that's how it works, and I think that's pretty neat how it allows for some customization based on what you need for like that specific day.
Yeah, I think it's very I like how it's not just like, oh, these are your followers in your garrison and these are your water followers. They're very different in the fact that you construct them. They're not meant to be collected and kept pretty on a shelf forever. Like, no, they're battling. Sometimes
they can die.
They're gonna die, and that's just how it works. Hopefully, even if you lose that battle, you will win the war. I think that's really, really interesting. And I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but a lot of people have been asking if they can send their followers on their ships, and no, you cannot.
No.
Doesn't work.
They are, like your followers have their mission table in their garrison, and your ship, like the ships have their little table.
Yeah.
And they're like way down by the water. Like your followers are just not in the shipyard at all.
Not safe. Certain followers can't swim. It's just not safe. I'm really, really excited for shipyards. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And it's funny because at first I was very nervous about the fact that it could be destroyed, but the fact that they're meant, like, the fact that you're creating them all the time and building one specifically for missions, I think it's a really cool, like, hardcore feature. Not like hardcore like WoW, but like in Diablo, like when you make the character and it's hardcore and it dies and it's dead. I think that's an interesting thing to add into the game.
Yeah, I should also point out that there is an equipment item that makes them indestructible.
What?
So, like obviously you're choosing between indestructible versus 10%, 100% extra gold, or like countering a certain threat. But if you really like a certain ship, you can put indestructible on it, and if you fail the mission and the ship would have died, it doesn't die, but like that indestructible slot does go away.
Oh, so you have to put indestructible on it every mission in order to keep it indestructible.
Yeah, or you could just have the ship counter all these awesome things and make the missions be 100% instead. So it's, a gamble which direction
so then
you want
it's kind of indestructible. That's interesting. I didn't realize that you could do anything like that. That's really, really cool. So that about wraps up what we had planned to speak about with 6.2. So I would love if you guys have any questions, you can leave them now in the Twitch chat, and we're going to talk a little bit, and then we'll
Yeah.
We'll
Oh, I
read
can
the
fill up a
chat.
delay a little quickly. Speaking of ships, yesterday actually, I should write this up for tomorrow. But on the boring data technical side of things, followers are the same type of data as ships.
Uh-huh.
So if you're looking up ships on Wowhead, it was sort of very hard to separate out what's a follower versus what's a ship. So we separated all that data to make a database just for the ships you can get,
Uh-huh.
which is at ptr.wowhead.com /garrison/ships. And it only has the ships. It only has, filters related to ships. You're not going to see things like, Garrod is a follower, and so is this ship next to each other, which is good. So we made that all up. You can see all the abilities. You can see, if you really like a ship for a certain race, you can be like, oh, this is a destroyer, and this is the crew it gets, and this is the ability, and here's a 3D model.
Yeah.
So we have all that good stuff all polished up because a lot of people are asking questions about ships, and we want to have the database look really nice so people can start leaving, really useful comments on those pages.
Yeah, I'm super excited for the ships. I definitely want to get like all of the cool ones named after lore figures, and then hopefully they don't die.
So we've got one about the adventure guide actually, and it's does it look like the adventure journal will fill in the gaps in the dungeon journal with regards to the pre-cata raids?
That's a good question.
Yeah, right now the adventure journal sort of seems like a work in progress. It's basically these like 3 blocks of text on the screen, and they like recommend raids you should do or quest areas, or like very short sentences that are reminiscent of Wowhead comments like, your seal of tempered fate is found in your capital city. Like, you're level 100, you should go get a seal of tempered fate. But yeah, basically it just sort of funnels you to the dungeon journal. Like, it will say, hey, based on your eye level, you should be running Blackrock Foundry.
Gotcha.
Here's a sample piece of loot you should get. Click here to queue up. Click here to read like the dungeon journal for it.
Yeah, we got another one that says, will the item level of the new raid be different with each phase as well as LFR? Or is LFR going to be, because we mentioned normal and heroic and mythic, do we not have the data yet for LFR?
We don't right now. Like, we have items that have weird placeholder names, and I don't think they have stats. And if you go to the dungeon journal on the PTR, they don't list the LFR stuff in it now. So I don't want to speculate on it too much because I think it's too early to say anything.
Yeah, I understand completely. And then someone else asked, will epic gems be 1 per day like old school, or will you be able to create as many as you want once you have the recipe?
I don't think they're going to be once per day. Right now, they don't have any daily cooldown on them. But because it does take 15 Fellblight, you are going to be limited by the time.
Yeah, by the investment.
Yeah, or the gold, because I think Fellblight can be sold on the auction house.
Yeah, Savage Blood can, so it kind of makes sense.
And thanks, Radar 3D, for saying that the adventure guide is WoW hidden in another screen. We do if Blizzard is going to put in some basic things, we do making more advanced versions of adventure guides and other resources to, keep people interested in the site and, keep up with all the times.
So that's about it. I don't see too many more questions coming in that are super relevant to 6.2. So it's probably about the time to wrap it up. Now keep in mind you can always subscribe to Twitch. We should have emotes within the next 2 weeks. Do you think that's saying too much?
I think that's fair. Okay. It's good. I want them to be done quickly, so we're hoping Noxie has the time to draw them in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it's going to be really fun. We're getting Pepe, and we're also getting a little Rocket, tentatively, which is going to be super fun. I just can't wait. I'm going to, emote Pepe and then immediately emote something else so that Pepe is on top of various heads. It's going to be the greatest thing. It's going to be the greatest thing. So you can always subscribe to our Twitch, and you can also subscribe to the Wowhead site itself, Premium Wowhead. And remember, there's all sorts of cool stuff. You can rearrange the sidebar. You get a special color when you are typing stuff in. You get a badge. No ads.
Apparently, wait, did you see the Arcane Panther is released on May 13th?
I did.
I think that must be a store mount coming. Yep, that is.
Is that the purple guy?
Yep, that is the purple guy.
I will
post that right. Finally. I will post that right after this.
Finally, he's been in the data for months.
Really long time.
Months. That's exciting. Good, because that's what I need is to empty my wallet to Blizzard a little bit more. Wonderful.
Exactly.
That's exciting. I'm excited about that though because Purple Kitty. purple kitty. Anyways, Wowhead Premium. What have I forgotten, Perk? No ads.
Yep, no ads.
Sidebar. Special color.
Yeah. Colors,
badge.
the bag scanner, lots
scanner.
of things. Show your support. You love us.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. And it's like less than $3 a month, so it's not expensive. And I know like people really hate ads, so just that getting rid of ads in and of itself is kind of awesome. So if you're interested in that, you can click upgrade now on your Wowhead account, or there's another. It'll say like subscribe now.
If you're not logged in.
So, yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah. So, I hope that you guys are having a great week. If you are watching the VOD of this, feel free to leave a question in the comment section underneath the video, and we might answer it next week. We film Wowhead weekly every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, or close. Today it was like 6:10.
Yeah, we've had a crazy day.
Hopefully next week I will be in a better mindset. I was telling Perk earlier, I don't have air conditioning in this room yet, and it's like 110 degrees in my office. I'm trying to maintain a good face, but I'm melting like the Wicked Witch of the West. So we hope that you're having a wonderful day. Please follow our Twitch channel and subscribe if you really like the show. We hope that you will tune in next week and all of the things.
Yep. Thanks for the questions, and see you next week.
Have a good week. Bye.
Bye.